Good morning, everybody. We will begin the Redevelopment Agency meeting for December 21st, and I call this meeting to order. This meeting is properly posted and posted in compliance with the open meeting law. These proceedings are being video recorded as well as presented live on KCLV, Cable Channel 2, and are closed captioned for the hearing impaired viewers. Please note customers of CenturyLink can view this program in high definition on channel 1002. The Redevelopment Agency meeting, as well as other KCLV programming, can be viewed on the internet at www.kclv.tv/live. The proceedings will be rebroadcast on KCLV Channel 2 and the web the Wednesday of the meeting at 8 p.m. and also on Friday at 4 a.m., Saturday at 7 p.m., Sunday at 7 a.m., and the following Monday at 5 p.m. This building is protected by a state-of-the-art fire protection and suppression sprinkler system. If alarms should activate during today's meeting, please evacuate using the exits at the back of the chambers out to the mezzanine. Proceed out the double doors to the terrace and down the back staircase. For anyone that has difficulty with stairs, please check with the marshal or fire official for assistance. Once outside, assemble on the northeast corner across the street from City Hall. At Lewis and First Street, employees wearing safety vests or our city marshals will inform you when it's safe to re-enter the building. For public comment related to items on the agenda, citizen participation, and public hearing items, we have available a speaker card, which you can complete and submit to the city clerk. Cards are available online in the clerk's office or at the rear of the chambers. If you do not submit a card, it does not prevent you from speaking under public comment. Citizens' participation are specified public hearing items. If there are anyone present today that has need for hearing impaired equipment, please see the city clerk's staff. If you parked in the parking garage across the street, please be sure to have your ticket validated by the security officers when exiting. We will move on to agenda item 3. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. The amount of time any single speaker is allowed may be limited. All comments made will be cross-referenced to those specific items. If anyone submitted a speaker card or who wishes to speak under this portion of the agenda, please come to the podium and state your name for the record. We will set the time at 1 minute. Is anyone wishing to speak under this agenda item? Okay, we will move on to agenda item 4. For possible action to approve the final minutes by reference of the regular Redevelopment Agency meeting of October 5th, 2016. Councilwoman, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
There is a motion. Please vote.
I don't have a... Oh, I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
And please post. And that motion passes. We are now on agenda item number 5. Discussion for possible action regarding City of Las Vegas Redevelopment Agency Component Unit Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, the CAFR, the fiscal year ending June 30th, June 2016. Ms. Appleyard, do you have the microphone?
Good morning, Vanetta Appleyard, Director of Finance with the City of Las Vegas. We are here today to present the CAFR for the Redevelopment Agency. We are required by NRS 354 to present an annual audit, to perform an annual audit by an independent audit firm. And this year, Pierce, Bowler, Taylor, and Kern performed that audit. Mr. Tom Donahue was the managing partner, and we want to thank them very much for all of their efforts with us. The audit was conducted in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, governmental auditing standards, and they issued an unmodified opinion. An unmodified opinion with no material misstatements means that our financial statements fairly present in all material respects the position of the RDA. Tax increment is the major revenue source for the Redevelopment Agency. This schedule just shows you the trending that tax increment has gone through over the past 4 years. As you can see, from FY15 to FY16, we had a very nice 10.7% increase in our tax increment revenue. This shows the comparative statement of revenues, expenses, and ending fund balance. The revenues were relatively the same, even though we had the $15 million in property tax increment. We did have intergovernmental in FY15 had a reimbursement from City Parkway 5 that was not following through in FY16. So our revenue was relatively the same when you take that all into consideration. Our expenses were hovering around the same, so we're trending pretty much on the same level. A little bit of uptick in the debt service, which will be better going forward with the refinancing that we did this past year. With that, we had an ending fund balance of $16.5 million. And with that, if you have any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Council members, any questions? Councilman Pierce? None?
Just say good job.
Yeah,
Just
wonderful
one.
job. Councilman
For
Coffin.
everybody.
Councilman Coffin.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Ms. Appleyard, may I have your name for Christmas?
Pardon?
I want your name for Christmas. Appleyard.
Appleyard, okay.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank
I'll
you.
expect it Friday or Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Coffin. Thank you, Ms. Appleyard.
Thank you very
Councilwoman,
much.
is there a motion to accept the report?
Move to approve.
All right, there's a motion to accept the report. Please vote,
Thanks.
and please post. Thank you, Ms. Appleyard. And that motion passes. We move on to agenda item 6. This is RA 112016, discussion for possible action regarding a resolution setting forth a policy of the Redevelopment Agency to authorize the executive director of the agency to have the administrative authority to make minor changes to the redevelopment plan for redevelopment areas 1 and 2. This affects wards 1, 3, and 5. Councilwoman Tarkanian, Councilman Coffin, and Councilman Barlow. Mr. Arndt, the microphone is yours.
Good morning, Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council and Agency Board. For the record, Bill Arndt, Director, Economic and Urban Development. This item before you is to address a situation in which certain property owners are trying to develop property that is on the border of land that is within our redevelopment area. The situation that's occurring, we have two examples which both are in Ward 1, which are on the screen and on the overhead, show parcels which are in the redevelopment area, which is the parcel outlined in red, and then the hot pink or magenta purple color is the piece of land which is outside of the redevelopment area. And so what's happening is these are small pieces of land. They typically have little value or negligible value from a tax-based standpoint. And in order for them to develop and go through our site planning process and development review process with our City Development Services Center, the land has to either be all inside the redevelopment area or all outside of the redevelopment area. This item accomplishes just that. It allows property to be added or removed. We did have this situation, you may recall, with Palace Station. That was a bigger project, much higher valuation, and in a scenario like that, we would not seek to do it administratively. But for these smaller projects, we'd like the authority given to the executive director of the agency and staff to move forward to make changes. We would only make those changes if 4 criteria are met, and this is in policies and procedures that would be in effect to implement this resolution. First, the property must be owned by the property owner or is being acquired where the development project is being considered. It must be a parcel that is too small to establish an economically viable use. Parcel does not contribute significantly to an increase in the size of the parcel it is being consolidated into as determined by the agency staff, and has an insignificant impact on the potential increase or decrease in assessed value for the parcels as it's being considered into or removed from the redevelopment plan as determined by agency staff. We do have one change to read into the record, and I have a copy of the resolution for the city clerk. And that change is as follows. On page, pardon me. On page 2 of the resolution, in the second paragraph of the resolution, on line number 9 currently reads, parcels within a redevelopment area has been developed, and we'd like to add the phrase after the first word parcels, which total less than 1 acre. We'd like to make that same change in line 22, the inclusion or removal of parcels in the redevelopment plan, and add after the word parcel, which total less than 1 acre. We believe that there is not a likely scenario where it's going to be a negligible value and it's over 1 acre. And again, even if a parcel is under 1 acre but doesn't meet all those 4 criteria and having an insignificant value, we would defer to the agency board and bring those items before the board. So with that concludes my presentation on this item. Staff recommends approval, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arndt. Council, any questions, concerns, comments? Councilwoman?
Was the addition of the less than 1 acre done because of Councilman Barlow? Was that a change he wanted made?
That's correct. Councilman Barlow did express a concern, and we believe that that clarification still could allow us to implement this procedure administratively and handle these smaller parcels. And if we run into a scenario where we're getting more and more requests and it's a gray area, we would definitely bring it back to the board for consideration, either with a new policy or revising this existing policy per a redevelopment agency board resolution.
So I see the restriction of 1 acre and why he did it. Sometimes we give administrative approval and then it goes past where we would expect it to go and we're not aware, and this causes us some problems, I think, in wards 1, 3, and 5. And so that is how Ricky thought we could handle that, and that might be able to do it. What do you think, Councilman?
Thank you.
If I can-
Through you,
Councilman
Mayor Pro Tem, through and to you.
It's okay.
I share the same concerns, and you go a long way toward addressing concerns when you put an acreage limit. But I'd like to find out what minor means, because we are talking about changes, which means changes enlarging or reducing the size of the RDA, in essence. I'd like to know a little bit about the fiscal impact of a change that is proposed. So, for example, it might be really important to know if that small minor fragment is actually retarding a very big development or preventing something from reaching its potential, and maybe vice versa. I'd like to see that. I know in Ward 3 I'd sure like to see them, and then, of course, it's up to the council whether or not the council chooses. They could either be subject to the approval of the member of the council or brought back to the council. In any event, I feel like I'm not ready to vote on this because I just want to fine-tune it a little bit, if it is needed at all.
Can I make a suggestion, Councilman Coffin and Councilwoman Tarkanian? I think, Mr. Arndt, let me do this first. These are few and far between. You don't expect a whole lot of these, do you?
Mayor Pro Tem, to answer Councilman Coffin's question, no, I do not. These two examples, they are specific examples. They are projects that are trying to move forward our review process. We did look at each of these parcels. They're currently paying taxes of 0. So they are kind of remnant parcels that really are kind of supplemental to the parcel that it neighbors. So these are the only two specific instances we have in front of us today. If there are more, I would expect it to be very few. But we didn't want to be a detriment to a new project.
Well, let me suggest this. Even if there's a half an acre that you can administratively bring into the RDA, I would recommend highly that you brief whatever council member, and knowing your professionalism, Mr. Arndt, and the way you direct yourself and your team, you would do that anyway. If this was in my ward and you had the administrative approval to do what you needed to do, I still think you would brief me in regards to that. So I would recommend you do that with wards 1, 3, and 5 as we proceed with this agenda item. Okay?
Correct. And the last remark I'd make, and it's of course at the discretion of the board regarding approval of this item, but this allows us to handle things administratively. If there were ever a gray area where all 4 of these criteria were clearly not met or the value was significant, and you're correct, Councilman, we don't define significant, but 0 is certainly insignificant. And so we're certainly going to be very careful in applying this. And if we do have a lot of requests that come through, just the fact that a new volume of requests would come through, which would cause me pause and would cause me to bring it back to the agency board, because this is really intended to handle the exception,
Right.
not to handle a lot of parcels which are trying to be incorporated into the redevelopment area.
Board members who represent wards 1, 3, and 5, though, need to be informed of what's going on. If this motion passes and gives you that administrative approval to do so, please do brief them as you continually do anyway. You brief all of us on all of your operations. I think that would be significant and probably ease Councilman Coffin's concern. Councilman, would that help?
I'm troubled because Councilman Barlow is not here to weigh in, and 2 out of the 3 are concerned, and I know Councilman was yesterday. This project is in Councilwoman Tarkanian's ward, and so I would defer to her as to whether or not she wants to approve this today or wait for a couple of weeks.
I will refer to the city manager on this item. Ms. Fretwell?
Well, I had a conversation with Councilman Barlow yesterday where he felt comfortable with the acreage limitation. I know he's got some other things going on today that's kept him from being here. Of course, we can delay these projects, until the council wants to consider this item. We do have a definition of minor in the resolution. Bill's read them into the record. I'm happy to read those again. But if council's not comfortable with these remnant parcels, we'll just start doing them through the regular process and bring them through the whole council approval for these minor modifications. I mean, we're just trying to speed it up for these people who are trying to do projects, and if there's a lack of comfort with that, then we can not do that.
Ms. Fretwell, do you, after your discussion with Councilman Barlow, does he feel comfortable moving forward with this agenda item?
Based on the conversation that I participated with him on yesterday, he seemed comfortable with the 1 acre limitation. I think based on what I discussed with Councilwoman Tarkanian, there needs to be some council oversight. So we feel like that there's sufficient guidance in what is defined as minority. We feel like the acreage limitation will define that. All of these would have to be for my signature. They're not going to happen somewhere down in the Economic Development Department without, council knowledge. So, but if there's a lack of comfort, just, we don't have to do this. We're trying to speed things up. So
No, I'm actually comfortable moving forward, and I don't know how the rest of the council feels. I do know how Councilman Coffin feels, as he shared that with us, but I'm willing to move forward with this agenda item. Mr. Arndt?
Mayor Pro Tem, to address kind of the concerns, and certainly I'll defer to the direction and desires of the board, but as a suggestion, if the board is inclined to approve this today, we could have as part of the motion, a required review in 90 days so that it gets us through these 2 specific projects, should Councilwoman Tarkanian be inclined to support it for these 2 projects, and then we'll bring it back in 90 days and we can say, what time did it save for each of these projects? Are we getting more requests? Do we need this policy and this resolution in place? But it would at least allow these 2 projects to move forward on a faster pace. It takes a 3 to 4 month process, roughly, if we don't have this. So it's a potential delay of 3 to 4 months for a project.
If we obey this for just 2 weeks, however, it's only 2 weeks, and then we could do this, and then the 3 of us could talk a little bit about some of the problems we've had. I'm only talking about 2 weeks, and I think that's what you're talking about, to talk with Barlow, and that's what we would like to do. So I would move to obey this for 2 weeks, and then we can vote on this, and I don't think they're going to do a whole lot during Christmas and holidays anyway, so that sort of helps us a little.
All right, there's a motion on the floor to obey this agenda item for 2 weeks to the next redevelopment agency. Please vote, and please post. And that motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Arndt. And stay right there, you're not done. We are on agenda item 7 of the redevelopment agency. This is RA 122016, discussion for possible action regarding a resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of the quitclaim deed and the assignment and assumption agreement and other agreements and obligations concerning the Neonopolis parking garage located at 450 Fremont Street to the City of Las Vegas, and ratifying actions previously taken and pertaining to the foregoing by the City of Las Vegas Redevelopment Agency, its officers and employees, Redevelopment Area 1. This affects Ward 5, Councilman Barlow. Note this item is related to Council Item 40, which is RA 51-216. Mr. Arndt.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of Agency Board. For the record, Bill Arndt, Director, Economic and Urban Development. This item before you is to recognize the way we are currently owning and managing the asset known as the Neonopolis parking garage. The original garage was constructed by the Las Vegas Redevelopment Agency, and it was done as part of a public-private partnership pursuant to an agreement back in 1998. During that agreement, it allowed for the development of the garage and management of the garage by the agency. Since that time, the city was actually paying for the debt service on the garage, primarily through the city's general obligation, but also in part from the city's parking enterprise fund. The garage was transferred because of that from the redevelopment agency to the city. If we fast forward to today, the city now has a financially solvent and successful parking program through the city's parking enterprise fund. And because of that, we wanted to reflect how the garage is really being owned, managed, and operated. So we moved the asset from the redevelopment agency's books to the city's books back in fiscal year 15. This item will allow the formal transfer of ownership and all active agreements and obligations, including the parking reciprocal easement agreement and amendments with the air rights owner, which is the owner of the retail center above the garage, a parking license agreement and amendments with the air rights owner, and parking license agreements with tenants of the air rights owner. It's important to note that this has no negative financial implication to the existing users of the garage. Those parking agreements regarding the rates and the terms will not be affected by this transfer. It's just recognizing the transfer of the asset and the accompanying management of the garage. Staff recommends approval, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Arndt. Are there any council members with any questions for Mr. Arndt? Seeing none, Councilwoman?
Move to approve.
There's a motion to approve agenda item 7. Please vote. And please post. And that motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Arndt. We are on agenda item 8. This is citizens' participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the redevelopment agency. No subject may be acted upon by the redevelopment agency unless that subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, come to the podium and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time on a single speaker is allowed, may be limited to 1 minute. Is there anyone wishing to speak under the agenda of the redevelopment agency? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. We will convene the city council meeting. City clerk, 10 minutes? 10 minutes after 9.